You're tuned in to the Behind the Ears podcast with Uncle Danny and Mr. Chris, because everybody does Disney differently. The Behind the Ears podcast crew would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support. Expedition Roasters is the artisanal roaster of specialty Disney-inspired coffees. Why not brew some of the magic at your home? Some of our coffees include Skipper's Brew, Ghoulish Delight, Enchanted Tiki Coconut, Redhead Rum, and many other unique roasts. Our coffees are certified gluten and allergen-free and feature unique custom artwork by guest artists. Expedition Roasters offers an adventure in every bag. So start your adventure today by visiting us online at expeditionroasters.com. That's expeditionroasters.com. And Behind Ears listeners, be sure to take advantage of this exclusive offer and save 20% on your first purchase with code EARS20. That's EARS20 at expeditionroasters.com. Brew your happy place. Do you have a little one and don't want to bring your stroller from home? Have you destroyed a stroller in the past from all the wear and tear from a Disney vacation? Well, Kingdom Strollers is a great place to rent a great quality stroller at a reasonable price. Kingdom Strollers is a Disney-featured stroller provider, which means they will deliver it right to your resort, even if you're not there. Same thing for picking it up at the end of your trip. So if you're in need of an affordable stroller rental during your next Orlando trip, consider renting from a Disney-trusted stroller company. Visit kingdomstrollers.com for more information. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Behind Ears podcast. Thank you, everybody out there for joining. I am Mr. Chris. Danny is actually at Epcot right now as we talk, and I am so jealous. I just cannot tell you how jealous I am of him. He has been enjoying an absolutely fabulous vacation, and I cannot wait to hear Danny's experience running the 5K during Princess Marathon weekend. I actually, I saw pictures, and I gotta tell you, Jessica created him this ensemble that was just, oh my gosh, you just have to see it. You gotta go see pictures over at the WDW community page. It is absolutely a sight to be seen. I'll give you a hint. He was Rapunzel, complete with frying pan. It was absolutely amazing, and Jessica did an absolutely fabulous job, and Danny wore it with pride and in stride. It was really cool. But tonight, we're not going to talk about that. I've got with me, beside me, gosh, Danny does this all the time. Right over there, we have Nicole Orr from Happily Ever Disney with me tonight. Nicole, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. I wish I was at Epcot eating, though.
Oh, I know. I mean, the funny part is that generally speaking, 3/4 of our conversations these days tend to end up talking about food. So don't be surprised if that happens, because, well, let's face it, it's going to happen. Why don't you tell easy for me to say. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your blog and just kind of give them a brief overview of who Nicole is.
Brief. Okay. Well, I'm a mom of 5. They're 19, 16, 14, 10, and 6. And the 4 oldest are boys. So I have a very boy-centric look at Disney, believe it or not. And of course, I run Happily Ever Disney, which is just a blog. It's my hobby. It's for fun. I like to get as much of the new info out. I'm a total nerd, so I like to read a ton. So I've got a head full of useless, random Disney knowledge. And of course, I volunteer with Magical Wishes for Kids at the Indy Disney meet, which is how I got to meet you and Danny, which is awesome. So I do a lot of nonprofit work for that, raising money for Give Kids the World.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I know we're going to actually talk a little bit about that in just a few moments, because it is absolutely a fabulous organization. And Danny and I know I'm going to say this more and more. We were so excited to be there last year, and we are so looking forward to finalizing our plans to head out to Indy. And we're actually hoping that several of our listeners will actually join us. It's just an absolutely fabulous time. So, you know what? We tend to talk a lot about news and stuff like that. And with a family of your size, five kids, 4 boys, you know, I could, as a dad, I could say, well, at least it's not 4 daughters.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't think I could handle more than one.
I've got one, and she's absolutely fabulous. But you know, the fact of the matter is that this past weekend she came home for my wife's birthday, and one of the things they did over the weekend was they started looking at wedding dresses. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It. There's not much a dad could say about that. Is this, they're starting to talk about they're just starting to talk about wedding dresses, and I saw pictures of her in these different types of wedding dress, and there was a few of them. It was kind of funny. The ones that my wife and I liked the most are the ones that were like that. She's like, nah, I don't like that one. I'm like, I like that one. Don't you understand this? You know, I don't care what you like. It's what I like. But anyway, but that's really cool. Now, so I kind of have to ask, and this will kind of go right into one of our first news topics of the night. Where does your family like to stay, resort wise, when you head down to Walt Disney World?
It depends on which family member you ask. I prefer the cabins at Fort Wilderness, but when our daughter turned 3, we no longer fit per fire code. So we started experimenting. My family loves Coronado Springs. We'll get 2 adjoining rooms there. They love the activities, the pool, the restaurants, just the whole look of it. I think that was the first trip we actually spent time at the resort doing stuff. Before then, it was just a place to go sleep. We like pop. I like the food court. And my younger kids love sports. So we take a couple of trips with just the younger kids sometimes when the older kids are away at camp, and they pick All-Star Sports every time. They have no idea it's like the cheapest one. And I'm like, yay.
That's actually it could be kind of advantageous. So like, sure, we'll go as long
Yeah.
as we can go. That's fabulous. Um, that that's really cool how you involve your kids in the resort planning process, because I mean it's something that I do. I mean we try to get like every year is a little bit different, and we try to get their input, and it's really easy with 2 kids to try to figure out, because one year we'll do one thing for one kid, next year we'll do something for the other kid. How do you actually deal with if you actually have, I'll say, conflicts in opinion? I mean, it
Right.
doesn't sound like it's too big of a deal, because they kind of migrate to a particular type of
Yeah.
resort. But how do you work that out?
Well, in a nutshell, mom wins. But I mean, we have to take turns. And honestly, I'm kind of frugal, and my kids are kind of frugal, and they know if mom's picking a place, it's probably the best deal, which means they get more spending money. And we resort hop a lot. So we might spend some time over at Wilderness Lodge, or we might go over to Grand Floridian or back over to Fort Wilderness for something. So even if they're not staying at a resort, they get to have fun at the resort. So
Okay, okay. Do you guys actually take time off or time off away from the parks to just do resort days, so to speak?
yes and no, we don't plan them in per se. My kids love Disney Springs, especially my oldest teenager. He loves Uniqlo. I mean, he would live there. He bought his homecoming outfit one year from there, um, which is hilarious. But no, I mean, yeah, I mean, we just pick and choose, and then one day, we might have decided to spend an entire day at Magic Kingdom, and my feet are swollen, and a kid might be not feeling well, and one's cranky, so we're like, all right, pool time, So we try to. I like structure, but I gotta have a lot of give and take and fly the moment. What works for everybody? Sometimes we divide and conquer. I'll stay in a park late with half the kids. My husband will go sleep. He'll get up early in the morning with the kids that are early risers. Me and the night owls will sleep in. So we just make it work.
Okay, okay, that's really cool. I can actually deal with it. Now, did you happen to hear about this new hotel that, and literally it just got announced within the last 24 hours, and about that they're gonna put it over by the Swan and Dolphin, and it's gonna be like a 13-story square hotel. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah,
That
that amazing architectural detail. It's so wild and unusual. It does not look like a corporate office. any kind whatsoever.
Yeah, I know. It looks like, it's like you're gonna have a whole bunch of people going there to, go and, sit at computers all day long.
That's
But
what my 14-year-old's like. Is that like an office building, like where they have like cubicles and people work? I'm like, no, that's the new hotel coming.
oh
He
my
goes, oh,
gosh. But it's kind of funny because when I saw the first comment about, oh, it looks like an office building, the funny part is that if you look at the Disneyland hotel over at the Disneyland Resort on the other side of the country, um, there are basically four buildings that are relatively square, or I should say more like rectangular. They look relatively, I mean, if they look cool, their windows are like blue tints. It's actually really, really actually pretty slick looking. But it looks like it could be an office set of office buildings in, a northern suburb of Atlanta or something like that. I mean,
yeah.
it's just one of those things. So I kind of I don't want to say dismissed. That doesn't sound right. I kind of put aside the idea that it looks like an office space because who knows what it's going to look like on the inside.
And that's what I'm waiting for. I want to see. I mean, I know it's not technically a Disney hotel per se, so I don't know, how much theming they're going to put into it. But you know what? I try not to judge a book by its cover because you never know what kind of weird things they're going to throw out that's going to be like totally awesome. And if it has an awesome restaurant, because I know it's got that rooftop thing, I will be there.
See, that is actually something that I think I would be looking forward to as well because it's going to be, I'm going to say, nearly as tall, if not as tall as the Contemporary.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, it's probably going to be a little shorter because of how the Contemporary is actually set up. But it's going to be a tall building, and you're going to be able to see some pretty good sights from 13 stories up, especially
Yeah.
if they're going to have that restaurant at the top, a la the Contemporary, a la California Grill. I mean, that's gonna provide some really good views, especially of, well, I was gonna say of Illuminations, but that
Maybe, maybe not.
but that's that's something else that's also we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
But you can see a lot from that high up because what people don't realize, that part of Florida is, well, it's flat. I mean,
Yeah.
it's relatively flat, and even from as you go up go up to Everest, when you ride that ride, you can see a lot. You go to the top of the Contemporary to watch Happily Ever After, you see for miles, and it's almost going to be the same effect from
Hmm.
this particular restaurant, this particular building. So I have not stayed at the Swan and Dolphin. By chance of you, I haven't.
I I have not. I have family members that have, but I've never even been inside. I think I might wander over on my next trip just to see what it looks like.
Speaking of next trip, Brenda was actually asking, how many times do you go down a year?
Um, we have been going twice a year as a family. This year we are skipping a family year only because we have one that just graduated high school, one's going to be a senior. My in-laws just moved into town, so there's all these variables. So we're pushing it back, but also I'm going by myself. So, um, so I get to go and they don't. And they're a little jealous. But we haven't fine-tuned exactly when our next family trip would be. But usually we try to go once or twice a year.
No, that's really cool. I mean, my wife and I have kind of started doing the whole idea of, um, we do our family trip, which, as I've been joking around with our listeners, is going to be sometime between tomorrow and Christmas, sometime between there. And my wife and I are also doing, a couples trip, which will also be sometime between tomorrow and Christmas. And that's all I've been telling people. And I think people are getting annoyed at that, but that's okay. Um, but I think it's kind of cool to do a solo trip. I mean, Danny loves to go on solo trips. And will this be the first time you've actually, going to be doing a solo trip before? Or have you done solo trips in the past?
I have not done a solo trip to Disney. I used to travel a lot pre-kids all over Europe. I went to, New York, all over. This is the first time going solo. I've spent times in the park solo. I have the best husband who will sometimes take the kids for the night and they go to the resort and have to do homework and laundry. And I get to spend an evening in the parks, which is awesome. But I have not done a total start to finish trip solo. So it should be interesting.
Okay. Okay. And it's one of those cases where I haven't done a solo trip yet. I mean, the furthest I've gotten to doing any kind of a solo trip is that I did get to go to at that time it was still downtown Disney, go to Disney Springs for dinner and to do some shopping, but then I had to go back to where I was actually stationed at for work. I wasn't staying on property. I wasn't there for a vacation or anything like that. And so it is actually really pretty cool with that. So the thing is that I myself am the kind of person that will, if I'm going to go to Disney, I'm pretty much staying only at a Disney resort. I'm sorry, I'm a hotel snob. It's just one of those things. Would you even give this Tuan Dolphin or this new resort a try if the price was right or if the features were right?
The price would have to be pretty right, and honestly, transportation, especially if I'm by myself. When we go, we drive. I have my car, so in an odd way, we don't even technically need to stay on property. We really like to. But one of the things I need, especially as a female, is safe transportation back and forth. And I trust the Disney transportation. Sometimes when I go by myself to the parks at night when my husband is staying with the kids, I've literally had the bus driver stop and wait and watch me walk all the way across the parking lot to, where my building is, which is amazing. They're like, we'll call for someone. So I always feel safe doing that. I don't know if I would feel safe getting an Uber with a guy I don't know, which I know it's supposed to be safe, but I'm just a scaredy cat. So.
Yeah, my wife and I did Uber for the first time in July, and it was actually really pretty good. Actually, it wasn't a problem at all. I know Danny is a big Uber fan, and he uses it all the time. I know Jessica and Nick, who's down there now, they've been using it. I think if my wife had the main say in things, she's a big fan of the minivans.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning on using when I go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, to tell you the truth, I mean, I as much as I like Ubers, I think there is something to be said about having a controlled offering such as a minivan, which I know costs a lot more than what some people say Ubers cost. I understand that. But sometimes, I think I wasn't trying to use you as making a point, but, in the past I've made points that there are some people that are willing to pay a little bit more to have Disney control that transportation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I think someone that you and I both know very well, Mr. Aaron, was asking, "Hey, what's your favorite park?"
Oh my gosh, it's like, what's your favorite kid?
That's my line.
Voice right now. Um, I love all of them differently. How's that? If I had to choose, I think Magic Kingdom. And then I really like Epcot because I'm a nerd. I love to just sit and go through the countries, and every time I go, I find something different or learn something that I didn't know was there,
Right.
I love Animal Kingdom, and that's pre-Pandora. Hollywood Studios, it's getting there right now. It's like, but let me tell you, I am so geeking out for Toy Story Land.
I know that Danny said that he's going to try to be down there for Toy Story Land. I personally am trying to do possibly a solo trip down there during the opening of Toy Story Land to kind of go along with Danny. I don't know if it's going to happen for me because as everybody know, I already have 2 trips planned, trying to squeeze a third one out of the budget.
Yeah.
I suppose I could sell the other kidney. I mean, but we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Now you mentioned Epcot because you like to geek out. So let's go into talking a little bit about Illuminations and to talk about
Okay.
Illuminations most likely being replaced, and as it said in one article, sooner rather than later. And being that they're actually in the process of, recording the scores for it now, that's a pretty good sign that there are, the groundwork is being laid for it. The Imagineering of it is probably relatively solid. And so we are going to see a change in Illuminations sometime in the near future. And my personal 2 cents with this is that I think we've kind of anticipated this change for a number of years. And I think I've kind of changed my viewpoint on change itself, which is, you know what? I love Illuminations. It is my favorite nighttime show, but it's been around for nearly 20 years. And as much as I would hate for it to go, I kind of have to sit back and wonder what's next? How are they going to plus it? And it kind of makes me excited to hear that, if they're going to change it, it's going to blow it out of this world. And kind of want to get your take on that particular news as well.
If you had asked me before they changed over to the Happily Ever After, I would have been like, no. But after seeing how that went, I'm like, bring it on. Because I loved Wishes. When they said it was going away, I literally cried because it's like one of my favorite things. That and Celebrate the Magic.
Yeah.
And then when I went right after it started, it's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, the projections just blew me away. I just sat there with my mouth open the entire time. And so as much as I love Illuminations, looking back, I didn't even watch it my last trip because I've seen it so many times in my life. So I went and did something else new. And I think if they kept the same feel as Illuminations, but just really added in some new wow factors for us, I think I'd be totally cool with it.
And I tend to agree. I mean, I don't want to see it go. I think it's one of my favorite soundtracks. In fact, there was a kind of an internet Disney station of sorts that every night at 8:30 Eastern time, very much along the same time that they were doing this right at the parks, they would start playing the pre-show music for Illuminations. All 30 minutes of that pre-show. They would play Illuminations, and then they would play the entire post-show of Illuminations afterwards. And to be very honest, I used to listen to that near religiously. I mean, because I do a lot of work at night, especially after hours, but especially before started getting into podcasting, and I'll listen to it. And I used to love it. Every night would be the same thing. And it's like I never got tired of the soundtrack to it, which I think is just one of those cases where I think the soundtrack makes the storyline. But it's gonna be kind of neat to see what they do coming up next. So I don't know. I have to totally believe that what is coming up is going to be something fabulous. One other person also asked, and wanted your 2 cents, since we always end up talking about food, as I said earlier. Someone did ask, what is your favorite restaurant on property?
Mine right now is Tiffin's. I love Tiffin's. Ever since it first opened, I go every single trip, and I will be going back this trip, and I might even go to Nomad Lounge in between my trips to Tiffin's. It's fantastic. The food is amazing. The service is amazing. I love the way it looks. I don't know. And everyone that I've said, oh, you got to go, and they're like, I don't know, and they'll go and they call me and they're like, that was the best restaurant ever. So, I mean, I kind of don't want to tell anyone that because then they'll all be there and I won't be able to just walk in and eat whatever I want. But if you have not been, totally go. And don't be afraid to take your kids. My kids love Tiffin's. They have a whole bunch of different things that every kid will like. And that's the one place my kids actually eat.
Now, what if you could describe their cuisine? Because I haven't been there yet, and it's one of those things that we're still kind of talking about whether or not it should be on our list. How would you describe it? What sort of cuisine?
It's definitely fine dining. Like
Okay.
you feel like all hoity-toity in there, which is always fun. But it's just good food. I'm a bit of a foodie. I like tapas. I like really good, rich flavors, and a lot of variety. And their appetizers, I'll sometimes order 3 or 4, and just sit and we'll all eat them, which is good. That's one thing you can do when you have a lot of kids. You're like, we want 7 appetizers, and everyone will share. But I mean, they've got the wagyu beef. I'm not even sure if that's how you say it. But they've got it changes. Their menu is seasonal too, so they have the freshest ingredients. So my husband got scallops were I was like eating just like butter melting in your mouth. It just it was so good. And I had a pan-seared duck breast with like truffle stuff and a glaze and all of these things that I don't even know what it is. But they have a Thai popcorn lobster soup, which you have to get. Everyone must get and try, unless you have like a shellfish allergy. Then don't get it. But that would not be good. But no, just I mean, you can get a few things. They have a bread service. Some people like it. I kind of didn't. I like bread service over at Animal Kingdom Lodge way better. But they've got like ribs that are really good. I mean, just all kinds of different things. They have a tomato basil soup if you want something a little more safe. But everything we've had is good. They have really good coffee, like really, really good coffee. And that's all different kinds. It comes from all over the world. And my favorite is the Mustang coffee because it's coffee with melted butter and brown sugar and like bourbon or whiskey. I don't know the difference, but it tastes good, and it's great for a mom of 5 who's been in the parks all day and is about to go to like Rivers of Light. So I can get them.
I mean, I'm already a coffee nut. I mean, I've been drinking Expedition Roasters coffee now for a few months, and it's like my go-to coffee. So when someone says, "Oh, you've got to try this coffee," and I'm like, "Okay, I gotta try this coffee now."
You got to go, if anything, just for the coffee, which you can get at Nomad Lounge at the bar, and
Okay.
their bar has a charging station, so you can sit at the bar and charge your phone in the air conditioning and get a cool drink or a coffee drink or some snacks. It's fantastic.
You couldn't get one of those to go, could you? Though.
Yeah, you can, and I have. They have the Congolese spiced beers, and we've gotten that, and we have literally gotten it to go.
So I was only asking because I didn't know if they if they would actually have allowed the alcohol to be outside of the.
I think so. I mean, you can get a Dole Whip with rum in it at Animal Kingdom. So
That's true. That's true.
it's
Yeah,
not like not driving in the park or anything, but
good point. Although
I don't know. I mean, we got it. We've gotten it to go a few times. Could have changed since the last time we did that, but
yeah, but now you got me thinking. I mean, because it's like my daughter and I are big on coffee,
yeah,
and we usually get you know coffee from that one place. It starts with the star and costs a lot of bucks,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
so we like to get our coffee. This might be something for us to try as something a little on the special side. That actually really sounds good.
Okay, I hate black coffee. I just can't do it. I'm like a whole like ton of creamer, lots of sugar. I can drink black coffee from there because it tastes so good. It's the only place in my whole life I've ever had just plain black coffee.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about the pure Kona press pot from
Hmm.
Kona Cafe. I actually took time to I actually bought a bag of the Kona beans that they use there, and I pull them out for special occasions, and it's absolutely fabulous. I'll just probably have to give that a try. So, but it's one of those cases where, what can I tell you? There's so many places where you can get some good food, and that is one place that I guess we haven't looked into. I will probably have to see if it's something that my wife and my son are relatively picky. They don't try much that they can't figure out. My wife, or excuse me, my daughter, my son-in-law to be, who will be joining us on our next trip, and myself, you can just put something in front of us and just say, eat this. And we'll be like, okay, fine. If it looks good, you might as well eat it. If it doesn't look good, give it a try. So, But that actually sounds
Oh,
absolutely
it's
amazing.
fantastic. I would not order then the big whole fish like they bring out on a plate. It's literally like head, tail, everything, and it's but it smells amazing. Every time anyone orders it, I'm like, oh man, it smells good. But I'm like, no, I don't want to eat that.
We talked about that because
But they have,
they have a dish like that over at Skipper's Canteen, and as much
yeah,
as it looks good, I just can't get myself.
like I really don't want to choke on a fish bone at Disney World.
No, no, it's bad. It's bad enough, getting sunburnt or something like that. Now to add in the fact that you just,
Yeah,
yeah, doesn't work for me.
no, but I mean they have safe dishes because they have steak. They have a chicken dish. I was trying to think what else because, like I said, it does change. But I mean, like I said, my kids, my little kids, will eat there, and they like it. So
Well, as someone who is a blogger, and I know you try to keep track of things that are going on, and at the same time with a large family, you try to keep Disney within a certain budget, and you just try to be very creative. I guess my question is this: um, taking everything into consideration, if you had to make a special trip out there for any reason, I mean, are you the kind of person that would actually make a special trip to go out to see Toy Story, even if it meant being that your solo trip or something like that? I mean, are what, or even better way of asking it is, what is probably one of the your most anticipated change that's going to be coming along in the Disney realm that you're really looking forward to?
I really am looking forward to Toy Story. I know everyone's like Star Wars, which I love. I'm a huge Star Wars geek too, but I don't know. I really like Toy Story because it's just so whimsical and kid like and everything. And that is the one thing because my husband's like, I can't believe we're not going this fall because we always go in the fall because we love that time of year. I go, yeah, but it's a good thing we didn't plan to go when we thought we were going to go in the summer because we would have missed the opening. I was like, we're not going until it opens. Um, I have somehow magically, by luck, been at every park opening other than Magic Kingdom because I was born after. But Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, New Fantasyland, Pandora, and none of those were planned. And so now I'm like, well, I've been at all of them. I kind of have to from now on. So we'll see. We're figuring it out, but that is definitely a huge factor in when we plan our next trip.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Well, I was wondering, and this is one of the main reasons I also wanted to talk to you a little bit because I know a lot of our listeners, they listen to Danny and I talk a little bit about the Indy Disney meet, and we've been already starting to hype things up, and we are also in the process of planning our marathon show, which is basically going to be our contribution of a fundraiser towards Give Kids World as a part of what we're doing for the meet itself, and we're just starting those plans, which is actually really pretty exciting. I was wondering if you'd be able to share with us a little bit about anything you could tell us about what's already been planned, and maybe some maybe insider information that you can share with our listeners.
I'm gonna be like Mark Hamill during an interview about Star Wars. I cannot tell you much. I can tell you it's gonna be flippin' awesome. And we've got some really amazing people that we're talking with. Some are definitely coming, some we're working with. Um, I know you are definitely going to want to be there, as will everyone else. Um, I know we've got a lot of our favorites coming back. The 501st, of course, will be back. Our princesses, they might be bringing some more of their princess friends. A lot of same activities. But in terms of the official entertainment and guests, I can't say anything yet.
That's fine. Wouldn't want to
But
stretch things out.
if anyone goes to the Indy Disney Meet Facebook page, whenever I'm allowed to say anything, I will instantly post it.
I love that. That is like so awesome. I know that. Are they still going to have? And of course, you can tell me. You have to plead the Fifth Amendment if necessary, but still going to do. They're going to have a a silent auction still.
Yes, very much so.
And for those of you who have never seen a silent auction or something like this, I got to tell you something. It was so difficult to try to pick and choose within a certain budget
Yeah.
of some of the great things that you can walk away with if you were highest bidder. Everything from artwork to limited edition type of items. There were, I think, last time there was a couple Dooney and Burke bags. There was a watch that I so wanted, and it went way beyond what I could afford.
We
Um,
may or may not have another one this year. I cannot comment because I'm not the one that secures those, but it might happen.
okay. Okay, Mr.
Mhm.
Chris makes a note of this, and so no one else puts their name on it. Um, I mean, it is really, if you want some really cool collectible Disney paraphernalia, it is definitely a place to go, and all the proceeds for that goes towards Give Kids the World. Um, I know that you're obviously, since we're gonna be there, and there's a whole bunch of other people that are already asking. There's gonna be a bunch of other like a vendor midway of sorts, where basically a whole bunch of really awesome Disney personalities will be there to talk to anybody about everything from travel to products to, I don't know, podcasts and different things such as that, which is really cool. And Danny and I got to meet some really awesome people from that particular part of the event. And please tell me Dole Whip's going to be on the menu somewhere.
Always, yes. And they are, for anyone who doesn't know, free. So yeah, and they are authentic as you can probably get outside of the parks. They are just like the ones in the parks. They are fantastic.
It was so amazing. It was one of those cases where it's like you go for the fun, you stay for the Dole Whips.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And I will go ahead and say that if we had some people that traveled to see us a few hours, and the fact of the matter is that Indianapolis is such an awesome city. This is the kind of city where, quite honestly, there are so many awesome things that you can do as a family in this wonderful city. Personally, I love the museums in the downtown Indianapolis area. The Indiana State Museum, I think, is actually really cool. The Indianapolis Zoo is fantastic. And there's talk about eating. Go downtown. You can pick out anything you possibly want, and you can basically get to almost anything walking. And so, if you think Indy is a little bit too far for just a day drive, a day trip, so to speak, um, it's definitely worth considering. Maybe making it a small weekend. And it starts at noon on that Saturday, the 25th of August. It goes until 7 o'clock. And so maybe come on in for the event. Stay overnight around the area. Next day, and enjoy Indy as a city, and then trek on home. But it's definitely worth coming out, not just to see us, but to hang out. What was it like? Was it almost or over 1,000 people?
It was literally over 1,000 people.
I mean, absolutely amazing. It was a fun crowd. The energy just cannot be beat. I really can't stress this enough. And I know Danny and I, afterwards, after we packed up, helped clean up, went back to our hotel briefly, we sat outside and just looked at each other and said, wow, that was so awesome. It was almost surreal. So I hope everybody can give a chance to do that. And if you are not able to go but still want to help support Give Kids the World, as I said, we're gonna have our marathon show, and we're gonna set up a basically a giving page where we never touch the money. It goes directly to Give Kids the World, and they receive all the proceeds from that, and it's going to be pretty awesome. Do have one question for you, Nicole. Someone was asking, can you bid online for the auction?
So we tried that once before and it didn't work out so well. So what we're trying to do this year is we're trying to make it a little more tech savvy where it's not just pen and paper. Um, but it really depends on if we get someone that can help us develop the means to do so. So we are looking into it. It's not 100% either way right now, but we are trying to figure out a way to make it a little more user friendly for that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I know it would be a big endeavor, but let's see what happens. I mean, after all, August is 6 months away, and um,
thunder.
lot, yeah, now it's under, isn't it? Yikes!
Yeah,
Gosh, it really is just it's amazing how time has already flown for this particular year, and I just need it to slow down just a little bit, as they say.
not until like spring, and then it can slow down.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll tell you what, you know during the time I was preparing for our time together, it was kind of interesting because you know I was kind of thinking of all the different things that are going on. I kind of wanted to do a little bit of comparisons. Now, some people already stole some of the questions that I wanted to ask you and I wanted to kind of compare some notes here, but let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about this. When it comes to planning your transportation, when you're with I'll say either most or all of your family, do you drive down or do you fly down?
We drive.
And do you drive all the way through, or you tend to stop?
When I make the plans, we drive all the way through. When my husband makes the plans, we stop.
There you go. Because it's like, let's see, you're 2.5 hours ahead of me in a sense of transportation. Uh, so it's what, about a 15 hour ish?
If you map it, it'll say like 14 hours and 26 minutes, and it's like 16 because of traffic and everything. It never works out. So I would say 15-ish.
That's a really good, that's a good drive. That's a long drive day type of thing.
With 5 kids, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what's your best travel tip for those that have kids on a long road trip like that? Ah, there's one of them now. Hi. So,
No one can come down while mommy's downstairs. Still had to get a good night kiss. So.
hey, that's awesome. I totally get it. What would you say is one of your best travel tips when it comes to traveling in a car road trip with kids?
Um, Lots of snacks. I literally have like a big box I fill with snacks that are in boxes. So that would be like your cereals and your cookies and your granola bars and your protein bars. And then I have a bag, a big one, that's filled with like chips and pretzels. And then I have an entire cooler filled with like cheese and hummus and fruit and peanut butter. But yes, lots and lots of food. And we are lucky enough we have DVD players in the car. But my kids also will bring their iPads and they all are that way. The 6-year-old can watch, Frozen, but the 18-year-old can watch, anything but Frozen.
Really, the 18-year-old doesn't want to watch, Anna and Elsa? I mean, seriously?
Yeah. And multitasking your breaks. I know a lot of people will stop and get gas, and later they'll stop and they'll eat, and maybe later down the road they'll pee. And I'm like, no, we're getting gas, and while Dad's pumping gas, we're peeing, and then we're picking out food wherever we are.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly, because it's like, if you go for a bathroom break, it's easily 10 minutes. If you go for a fuel break, it's easily 15 minutes. If you stop for food, it's easily 30 minutes. So you can probably make it a 20-minute break, get it all done, and you're back on the road.
You can. And I would suggest, my kids are old enough now, they travel well. They're way used to it. We've been traveling with them nonstop since they're little. But if you have little kids, pick some place like a Chick-fil-A or a McDonald's, wherever you like to eat, that has a play place. We would literally take the time, instead of eating in the car, we would go in, and me and my husband would just chill, and they would just run around, because they get so stir crazy in the car, and they're sitting there and they hate it. So we would just let them run. It was so worth the extra 20-30 minutes just sitting in a play place somewhere, to just help, because then they'd fall asleep in the car when we were done.
I could see that, and I could see where that would be that would be important. And like it was kind of funny because Carol actually mentioned here, we always stop every time we get into a new state. Um, there are
That'd be a
sometimes
lot
we
of stops for us.
well, because if you're like, well, do you go through Cincinnati, or do you go through Louisville?
It depends on which one has the most construction. Here recently, it's been like through Lexington,
Yeah,
but we have gone through Louisville when Lexington was under construction. So
yep.
just
I know exactly, and I know both of those routes, and I actually like
yeah,
going through Lexington better, just for different reasons.
it's
But
prettier.
I think it is, and actually, to tell you the truth, and I know that people are gonna be like, this sounds like such a goofy detail, but when you go from like Nashville to Chattanooga over, well, through Tennessee, the hills are very steep, whereas going through like Lexington to Knoxville and to Chattanooga, you actually hit a higher elevation, but the incline is less steep. Now,
Yeah.
someone might say, "What's the big deal?" Trust me, wear and tear on your vehicle is one of those things that you don't really realize until you do it one time, and when you come home, you have to replace the brakes because somebody Kathy, decided to destroy the brakes one time. Going downhill at night because she couldn't see how things work. So we actually don't like going through the mountains at night.
I
Um,
may not have done that on one of my first trips driving in and out of Pittsburgh when we were first married, but I've since learned how to go down up and down hills very quickly.
yeah. So I take it you got a minivan or something like that that you kind of load up.
We do. We're up to two minivans now. We are just totally awesome.
There you go. You got me. Hey, because if having minivans is cool, having more than one is more awesome.
Right?
So, but we tend to drive as well, even though it's just four of us. A lot of times it's just the idea of sometimes we have more time than money, because we can drive for about $300 in fuel versus well, let's see. The tickets I bought for our trip this year for the five of us was like $1,300.
Yeah, we keep pricing it out just to see, we'll just be like, oh, let's look. It's 2 grand. I'm like, I could stay for like 3 extra days at Disney.
Yeah, and at the same time, someone's like, gee, that seems like a lot of a price difference. Excuse me. So one of the things I say is this, and this is just Mr. Chris thinking. I budget for $1,200 or $1,500 for travel to Disney, but here's my difference. If I'm only spending $400, maybe $500 in travel costs there and back, the remaining of that budget goes into maintaining my truck anyway, which I
Hmm.
need in order to do it. You need to maintain the vehicle. You might as well have it in your budget, and then you don't have to worry about it. And you're saying, well, so if that's a lot of maintaining for $1,000, well, trust me, when you have a somewhat older vehicle, I would rather put $1,000 a year into my truck than basically have a you know $600 a month vehicle payment for a new truck. And it's all about budgeting. And so
Hmm.
this year, and we're only flying this year because we have one extra person with us, the son-in-law candidate, as I like to refer to him. So that's how we budget, type of thing. Um, Also, we tend to also stay in different places to see friends and family on our way down, which kind of is a lot of fun. Family is very important to us, and we'd like to be able to spend time with them if we possibly can, and it just makes the trip a little bit more special when we can see those out of town family members. So, well, that's actually really cool. What would you say that you know? What would you also say that when it comes to gosh, I had a thought and I actually lost my mind for a second. Have you ever had a deal with like kids getting sick while you're there? And if so, have you ever
Every
had? every time?
Every single trip. Our first trip there, we got the norovirus. That was fantastic. Um, the second trip, we got stomach bug again, but not as bad as the first time. I think it was our third trip. All of the kids got strep throat and one got scarlet fever. Yeah. So we quickly learned where the different clinics were. On our most recent trip, when we went, it was just my husband and I and our two youngest kids. The first night that we were there, he was not feeling good. And I'm sure you're the same way, because all men kind of seem to be the same way. I'm fine. It's okay. And I'm like, I think you need to go to the doctor. He's like, where are we going to go? We're in Florida. I'm like, go to Celebration Hospital. Finally, he's like, I think I need to go to the hospital. He had massive diverticulitis and was actually admitted to the hospital. So yes, we have a lot of experience with getting sick at Disney.
Now, people might find that question to be a little bit odd. Okay.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It is a kind of an odd question. But I asked it for a couple of different reasons. One, obviously, with the recent flu outbreaks that have been going around, there's been a lot of concern about what to do when you're feeling under the weather, and especially if you have kids that get sick. In fact, one of our friends over on the community page actually made a comment about how, you know, and I know she meant no disrespect by this, but she obviously witnessed a lot of families that were dragging kids around who were obviously sick with flu-like symptoms. Now, when you have a family as large as yours, obviously the risk factor, in my opinion, of having an impact kind of goes up. Mm-hmm. And just because, well, more people, more odds, is really what it comes down to. And I think the reason why I brought it up is this. You know, we've been you know, we've had different bugs hit us during our trip. My daughter one time had a double ear infection. Ooh. And we ended up over at Center Care, which is, you know, it's the urgent care that's right outside of Disney Springs. One trip, in fact, this last trip, we actually extended our stay, and you know, we did, and you know, my daughter got violently ill, and so we're like, okay, we're heading home that day, so we just kind of made a beeline north, type of thing. And, you know, there are some things that, you know, like right now people are really concerned about the flu season. Mm-hmm. Does that concern you with your family as much as, you know, I'll say the hype is right now on a lot of the Facebook pages, or do you feel like you're pretty much, you know, you can prepare for it and you've kind of been there, done that, so it doesn't really scare you?
For my kids and everybody, it's no different than being at home. They're exposed. I personally happen to have a really bad immune system. I get sick very easily. During the flu season, I'm actually supposed to wear a surgical mask when I go out to avoid germs. So going for me, like, I don't know that I would plan a trip this time of year just because it's flu season. But I will tell you, I would not think of traveling by myself anywhere because of my health issues, but I'm going to Disney by myself because I know when I'm there, if I need help, all I have to do is pick up the phone and the cast members will help me. I know that they can transport you. The Celebration Hospital is amazing. They have great urgent cares. And they're doing that test program now with the nurses at some of the value resorts. Have you heard this?
I have heard about that, and I thought that was a really interesting thing.
I really hope that takes, because even though I know what to do when my kids get sick, it would be really nice to just pick up the phone and say, is there any way someone can get me medicine so I don't have to leave the kids in the room, and hope that the trading post or the gift shop's open, or, you know, I have a way to get to a pharmacy. Because when my son had the scarlet fever, it was almost midnight and there were very few places I could go to get medical attention. So just knowing that there would be someone that we could call, I mean, that is very reassuring. So
yeah, and I'm really glad to hear you say that, because I mean, while we all have to, you know, practice, you know, some common sense in everything that we do in our planning, especially when it comes to our health, sometimes you just can't be scared.
Right.
You know, if you're constantly scared about what could possibly happen, you're never going to experience what could happen. And
Exactly.
and I'm glad that you mentioned, as someone who has experienced the different urgent cares, the hospital, and you're not the first person to say that Celebration Hospital is a fantastic facility,
Hmm.
which you hope you never ever have to end up in the hospital or something, but it's good to know that you know it's there, and it's a good place to go, and they'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Your trip may be really kind of messed up, but the fact of the matter is that your health is extraordinarily important.
I have to be very careful with hospitals. If I go to a hospital locally, they will usually put me in an ambulance and transfer me to another one because of my unique health issues.
Hmm.
Celebration Hospital is equipped to handle all of my issues. So if anything were to happen, I would be fairly confident they would be able to treat you. So,
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And again, I know people are kind of wondering, Gene, it seems like a weird question, Chris, but yeah, it's one of those. I wanted to get someone's opinion on it. I mean,
yeah,
someone that's
it's a
been through
valid
it,
question.
done that.
A lot of people are talking about right now with people. I have had quite a few people who either came back with the flu or were worried about going and getting the flu. Um, I gotta tell you, wash your hands. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, especially like if you go to a buffet and you're touching all the handles of all the spoons or
I didn't
the
even think about that.
menus, the Winnie the Pooh honey jar wall, and it's lick.
I hate to say this. We talked about that. Oh, it has to be
Right?
within the last couple of
No,
months.
don't touch that.
Oh, I can't remember who said it. I can't remember if Danny told this story or someone, but the inevitable story of some little kid sticking their tongue out.
I I have literally seen it. Yeah, and so yeah, try to think about what you touch, wash your hands, and don't rely on hand sanitizer because it doesn't kill norovirus and most stomach bugs. I've seen moms in the bathroom and there's a line for the sink and they'll go, "Come on, we'll just use the hand sanitizer," and I'm like, "No, please wash your kids' hands." you know,
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
so that's my little advice. Hand sanitizer is great for many things, but
Yeah.
if you want to avoid the stomach bug, wash your hands.
Oh, well, I think on that note, we're going to actually start wrapping up for today. Nicole, first off, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you out on the internet? I mean, give us web pages, give us, your names of your sites, etc. Where can people find you?
Okay, so almost everywhere it's Happily Ever Disney. So if you go on Facebook, you can search for Happily Ever Disney, or you can just type in facebook.com/Happily Ever Disney. Same thing on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Happily Ever Disney. But then like on Instagram, it's Happily Ever Disney blog. And then on Twitter, it's just Happily Disney. So you should be able to find me. If you see a pink castle with fireworks in the background, that's me.
Most excellent, most excellent. And of course, as she also mentioned, go to the Indy Disney Meet Facebook page and like that page. And Nicole is going to, she's been last year. She did a great job. Anytime I had a question and I sent them a message, I was actually talking to Nicole. It was actually really cool, and it was actually awesome to actually meet her face to face while I was there. I'm like, oh, so you're the face behind the keyboard, yay!
Most people don't know what I look like. This is me.
So,
Yeah.
so I hope everybody also goes and takes a look at that. But any final words that you'd like to share with our listeners for today?
Oh gosh, so many. I could be on for like ever. I talk way. No, go check me out if you want. Go to the Indy Disney Meet page. If you want to learn more about the Indy Disney Meet, Magical Wishes for Kids, Give Kids the World, we do have a website. It's www.mwfk, which stands for Magical Wishes for Kids.org. And that you can see all kinds of stuff. The Facebook page is great. You'll get updates, but you might not see our history and those little tidbits. And you can see past event pictures and videos and fun stuff. So that's always cool.
Most excellent. Well, thank you so much again, Nicole, for being here tonight. And everybody, so here's our usual ending spiel. Don't forget, you want to catch us over at the WDW Community Facebook page. Check us out over on Facebook, over at, Behind Ears Podcast over there. Behind Ears PC for Twitter. Behind Ears Podcast also for, Instagram and everything else that you could possibly imagine. Also, don't forget, you want to, rate and review us over at iTunes. Go ahead and subscribe also at iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher Radio. I gotta make sure she's not hearing me, but ask Alexa to play us as well, and also Google Home. They'll also play us as well. We know that for those of you watching, if you do subscribe to our show, we're just about getting all of our podcast stuff kind of fixed. It's been delaying all of our episodes out. We are getting that fixed just for you. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, any topic ideas for the show, feel free to hit us up over at behindearspodcast@gmail.com. We will certainly do our best to respond to everybody that writes to us. And once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support. And until the next time, we hope you have a magical day. Thanks, and take care.